With us right now, Paul Benigeri. Paul, you are the founder CEO of Archive.ai, where you work with brands. You help them figure out influencer marketing. But I love your approach because, listen, I think the best opportunity is micro nano influencers, people that are just like us, right? If we think about this from a consumer standpoint, I just want to let you know, I'm really excited to talk about this. And, I'm coming at this with 14 years of studying and leading on consumer behavior. And I think if we look at a lot of trends around influencer marketing, you're very, very well positioned. What a great solution. So first off, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no, super excited. I mean, we saw the space changing really quickly, and when we were running our own brands, we just saw really good performance on the nano side. And given that it's so common, so easy to work with influencers, a lot of the big ones are priced out, right? And I think a lot of brands are moving towards building real, authentic relationships with people maybe like me or like you to help influence our friends and families with what we post on Instagram.
Yep, absolutely. Listen, if you've got a great product that you think that I might like, and you think that I might think that my audience might like, sure, send me some sample units, some demo units. I'll check it out. I'm not at that. I do what I do, and I've got good business and all that sort of thing. But in terms of my social media audience, I'm always open to trying new things. And I try new things and I talk about it for free anyway. So, the things I come across, I post about it on social media. But yeah, it's a great win-win.
For sure. I think on the influencer side, everyone is excited about the dynamic, right? You feel like a VIP. The brand is selecting you or reaching out to you directly to try this awesome product. And if you're an athlete, maybe it's actually going to be part of your routine. If you care about health, maybe it's a product that'll, help you hit your goals, right? People love telling stories, and there's not that many better stories that you can tell on Instagram than like, hey, this is an awesome product. Here's how you use it. It makes my coffee delicious and all that good stuff. So, I think what we've been really able to capture is to take these magical one-on-one moments between a brand and a small or smaller influencer called a micro nano influencer and scaling that, right? The question is, it's great to do 1, 10, 20 of these, but if you're really trying to scale, get to these higher revenues, you're going to want to activate 1,000 of these a month, 2,000 of these a month. And that's where we figured that we could build some really, really valuable software and AI to help brands manage these relationships and maintain the human touch while doing it at scale.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the problem, right? With, when you're talking about trying to get scale with nano influencers, it's a lot of work if you want to build relationships with, 500, 1,000 people, and finding them and then all the back and forth. And so along comes Archive.ai. Go ahead and explain how the platform and the technology works.
Yeah, so essentially we took a lot of the workflows. So how does it work to activate a nano influencer? Your brand, you need to find the influencer. So going through Instagram and finding great influencers that are untapped, that have great engagement. So that we have a lot of software that, scrapes Instagram, some algorithms that helps predict which Instagrammers are going to perform from which brand and find these kind of like nuggets on Instagram. Then there's the relationship building perspective, right? How do we contact influencers in a way that maintains that organic communication where the influencer feels like they're talking to a real person? Yeah. A lot of brands have tried to tackle the problem by going to platforms that send push notifications or automated messages to influencers, but that's not building a real connection. You're not scaling your community by sending automated DMs and push notifications to influencers. And so we've developed a lot of technology to make sure that we can use software to generate conversations and have influencers feel like they're having great one-to-one conversations with brands and building a relationship. You try a product, you give feedback, you like it, you maybe get some more, or you get a different flavor. And the influencers over a course of 12 months are experiencing different touch points and different products with the brand. They're connecting with the brand, they're sharing their story. We are really, really good at generating feedback, right? So letting influencers know they did a great job with their post, sending them a birthday message, responding really, really quickly. So they really feel like they have a great connection with the brand. And so they're super happy to give back. Because if they love the products and they feel like they're talking to someone on the brand side that can really hook them up, they want to support, they want to show support. And that generates a lot of value for the brand if you can do that 1,000 times a month, right?
Yeah. Talk about, Paul, the ROI. And we were kind of talking about this, right? In influencer marketing, let's say you have a brand that's like, okay, look, we only have like $30,000. So, okay, here's someone, we'll give them $30,000, as opposed to, if they were to talk with you, you'd probably tell them, no. What would you tell them? How could they get much better ROI?
So it's not black or white, right? 5 years ago, I'd be like, give it to a great influencer. There's so many great influencers. Now, all these influencers are priced to perfection. Your budget is competing with Coca-Cola's, Nikes, and etc. So it's really, really hard to find a good deal. It's going to be really hard to deploy 30K across these big influencers that are on every single brand's list. If you go to the nano micro level, smaller influencers, instead of paying the influencers and doing a cash transaction, you can gift your products to a number of influencers. Why is that going to perform better? First of all, instead of having your bet in one influencer, you can spread your bet across 100, 200 influencers. So even if 5 or 10 or 20 of these influencers completely fail, you've got the rest of the community to build that up. And then it's holistic. What do you get with that influencers? Great. You get a little bit of brand awareness, you get a little bit of content and engagement. And that engagement can be even better with nano influencers because they're influencing their friends, their families, people that follow them really because they know the person. So there's a lot of trust in that influence, but you get way more content. You can work with these influencers to share more stories. If you're doing Facebook ads, you can use that content or whitelist influencers. You can generate hundreds of assets for your SMS campaigns, for your email campaigns. And finally, from a data perspective, it's way better. You have a way better algorithm to optimize your community if you have 100 or 1,000 data points than if you have one data point, right? If your influencer crushes, good for you. You might launch again and flop, right? And so then you're in a tough situation. If you have 100 influencers, you can test out males, females, yoga moms. You can test out fathers with kids. You could, people with glasses, long hair, curly hair people, and refine your community over time because you're getting so much signal that you're able to really iterate and compound those wins.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's think about this too from a consumer standpoint and like our own behavior. So let's say let's kind of compare two things, right? Let's say you see one influencer and they're watching a YouTube video, then all of a sudden they go, let me tell you about stamps.com, and then they go into their pitch. So that's one scenario. Let's thumbtack that. And then let's compare that to you're just on social and 5 of your friends, you happen to see them using that product. And they're like, well, this is easy, and they don't make it like, they're just, it's a lot more native, it's more authentic, and it's real people that are like you. Think about it now from your perspective. Which of those would lead you to more likely engage with that product? And for me, I mean, I can tell you what my answer is. It's like, those are people that are just like me. They like that product. They legitimately like that product. It's more along the lines, it feels more like UGC, user generated content, right? I mean, they've got the disclosures where appropriate and so forth, but that moves the needle far more for me.
For sure. And especially when you not only see one influencer posting, but maybe 5 or 6, right? And here's the difference. Instead of hearing that same podcast host talk about stamps.com, and a lot of the times people will actually try stamps.com because they have faith in the podcast host and they have a relationship. So it's a little bit of a similar dynamic there. But with influencers, you've got so many influencers posting, you can stay top of mind and it feels a lot more authentic and organic, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where really good book I read on this a couple of years ago. Mark Schaefer, Marketing Rebellion is a fantastic book, just talking about consumer behavior and what they expect and where it's going. And obviously one thing he talks about is, the ROI from ads, paid ads. It's branded as an ad. It's an ad. It's, it's coming up on your feed as an ad versus, again, someone that you like, you have a connection with, a friendship with, or you like the stuff that they share on social media, they're talking about the product. What do you think in terms of like ROI and value, again, to, going a little bit more of the micro nano route as opposed to just paying ads?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even the interesting thing, so I guess curveball, even when you're running paid ads on Facebook, we see influencer and user generated content oftentimes outperform your branded ads. Two reasons. Number one, brands that do it can generate a lot more content. And nowadays on Facebook, you need to churn through lots of content. You need to test a lot of content. You can't generate one piece of content a year and hope that'll, perform really well. You need to test new ads every day, every week. And so if you've got a content machine from your influencers and from your nano influencers, that's going to lead to really, really good returns. Secondly, from a paid ads perspective, if you're scrolling through your news feed and you see a beautiful shot from Nike, maybe that'll catch your eye, but only if it's a really, really well produced, maybe you recognize the brand. With user generated content, you see this cool looking person that is very relatable on your feed. You don't really see it as an ad. And so typically that can perform really well. Even some really raw content, sometimes it's a surprise. Like a lot of brands I work with, we do like UGC Lotto, right? Like we launch like 5 or 10 user generated ads and we try to bet internally which one's going to perform better. And we can never tell. It's always a gamble. It's surprising. You can't predict which ones will work well.
Yeah.
And you, I think from a paid performance, even leveraging your influencers from that perspective can work really well. One of the other things that brands are doing with paid ads now is this technique called whitelisting. So instead of doing an ad from your brand's Facebook account, you can actually take over the influencer's Facebook account and show an ad from that influencer account. And that again flips a dynamic, maybe a little bit, I wouldn't say confuses the user, but has a different perception when the user is looking at their feed and they see an influencer talking about a product. It feels a lot more like a recommendation as opposed to a branded ad. And a lot of those techniques are helping brands either, find better CPAs and improve their performance on Facebook, or scale their spend by finding kind of like new pockets and new audiences. So even from that perspective, it can work really well too.
Paul, your website, archive.ai. So if a brand's been listening to us or, brand, like any company, right? They're like, yeah, I want visibility for, what we do. In order to work with you, like what kind of budget should they have or what should they plan on? Like, what does that look like?
So we have two products, Archive Communities, that helps brands build a community of influencers. So we typically start off in the 10K a month range plus products. So those are typically brands that are maybe activating 100 influencers a month and trying to get to 1,000. That's a really, really good fit for us. If a brand is earlier, we're super happy to have conversations and give them a couple of tips of how to test that channel in-house. Right? Like I think where we are a great fit is helping brands go from 50 to 500 or 50 to 1,000. Because again, if you're just trying to activate 20, 30, 40, 50 influencers a month because you're maybe launching or you're just trying to test the channel, you can really do that in-house. You can maintain those relationships. Our software really helps really scale those relationships. Wow. We also have an app on Shopify that is freemium that helps save all of this influencer content automatically. All of your stories that your brand gets tagged in will automatically save and label them and let you collect them. So typically marketers are screenshotting these off Instagram, hiring interns to save those stories. It's kind of crazy. So we have software that does all of that, and it's freemium. If you're under a certain threshold, you can try it for free, keep your assets, and at least have them for when you're ready to launch ads from those assets or use them. So again, we have two products, and I think the community part is definitely for later stage brands because we're focused on scale, but the Archive app, the Shopify app, is a really, really, really good fit for any brand, as long as you're getting tagged on Instagram. So maybe right after you launch.
And so let's say that someone's listening to us and they're like, hey, I've got like 50,000 followers on Instagram, pretty good engagement. Can I get connected with some of the brands you work with? Is there anything they can do?
So can you clarify that question?
Yeah. So like, let's say someone has a pretty decent following on social and they're like, how do I connect with more brands? I've got a good following, like someone like me, like you can you can send me,
right.
These guys were like IQ Bar, like they were a previous guest, they're constantly like, I get, stuff from guests and I'm happy to, give them a shout out and stuff, but how do I let people know? I'm like, yeah, I'm open for business. Go ahead and send me some stuff. If I love it, I'm happy to give you a shout out.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So we actually have a different approach to finding influencers. we do this at scale. And so we just run algorithms to mine Instagram. So
Oh,
we're not
nice.
so much of a because here's the thing, we want to select for influencers that
Yes.
are not actively looking for partnerships. What we see is that these types of influencers are performing really well. There's all sorts of marketing platforms where influencers can sign up and get these brand deals. But what we found is that those influencers are almost like saturated with free product posts and things
Yeah.
like that. And so we just have a relationship with influencers that's very kind of behind the scenes, as opposed to like, hey, sign up for this and we'll give you kind of like all of these top brands. Because when we work with brands, typically there's a less than 2% overlap between any of the communities we build and manage. And why is that important? Because if we have an influencer and they're posting for brand A and then they're posting for B, C, D, E, F, then they're going to really dilute their audience and their influence. And that ends up being worse for brands, right? So that's actually something that is quite different with our model compared to your typical influencer marketing agency or talent network, where you have one person that represents an influencer or a set of influencers or an artist or celebrity, and they're trying to get as many deals for that one person. We're really brand focused, and so we try to find the best possible influencers, and ideally those influencers like don't really post about any products, right? And we really try to hone in on those.
Yeah, so I'm sure we've all seen those Instagram. I mean, they're just constantly like just shilling stuff. Like every post is like, oh, here's a new lipstick, here's a new this, here's a new that. And it's just like, okay, well, you know, you just,
Right. You just
it
stop
loses,
believing them, right?
a lot of validity. I did.
Exactly.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. All right. Paul Benigeri, again, your website, archive.ai, and a company that's been, business has been listening to us, business owner, marketing director has been listening to us. They're like, okay, where do we go from here? What do they do when they go to the website?
Just there's our email there. Just shoot us an email. Let us know what you're potentially interested in. I'll personally respond and give you feedback on where we can potentially work together. Or if we can't work together yet, we'll be very transparent and typically happy to jump on a call, just talk about strategy. I'm always interested to hear what brands are doing, especially in the e-commerce space. What's working, what's not working. We can jump on a call, trade some notes. I can give you some feedback on your strategy. Very, very open to doing that. It's a great learning opportunity for me.
All right, Paul Benigeri, again, your website, archive.ai. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us.
Cool. Thanks so much, Josh. It was a pleasure.